What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Do what the intro said. Hit that like and subscribe button before we get into this video. Again, guys, I'd like to welcome you into the Scripture Speaks channel. Life is messy. Questions we have are real, and sometimes faith feels silent, but God's word, it always speaks. So, again, where the Bible meets your life, let's try to be intentional about seeking God. And that's what I learned on this journey these last couple of weeks, like seeking God and being intentional about it. Because the devil is so relentless. So we have to be intentional. And when I talk about intentionality, it's just putting God first in everything that we do. You know, prioritizing him in everything we do. uh he's got to be first. But I want to talk about something today that um and I've talked about this woman on my channel before, and her name is Abigail. And if you read First Samuel chapter 25, it's the story of Abigail and David. And Abigail, when you read the story, it would seem as if she defied her husband Nabal, but she did not. When you look at it, you'll be like, why did she go against, what he said to David? Well, the story goes, before I just want to give you context. The story goes, David and his men asked Nabal for help. Nabal denied him help, but David, sent message to him, when your men were out here and they needed help, I helped them. No harm came their way. And when David sent his men to Nabal, Nabal said, "Who is David?" And basically like shunned him off. But in all of that, when David heard what Nabal said, he was ready to kill Nabal's whole household, including Abigail. But Abigail was warned by one of the young men that knew the story about how David helped them. And he knew that Nabal had sent David's men away and really just disrespected David, so to speak. So Abigail jumped right into action, and she decided that she was going to go meet David on the road before he came to do what he came to do to her home and the people in her home. So in looking at that, I want to talk about three things. Abigail shows us that the wisdom is a form of warfare. I want to talk about Abigail teaches that honor is not blind loyalty. And the last thing I want to talk about is Abigail reminds us that wisdom positions you for God's next move. And now that last one is kind of, the way the story ended. David ended up marrying Abigail. And you probably say, well, oh, David and this, because Nabal died. And he died basically because he made foolish decisions. His name meant foolish. He was harsh, he was mean, he was immoral, and God dealt with him. So let's get into the first point. Wisdom is a form of warfare, because this is what this is. This is warfare. You know, we're dealing with an enemy, and it's not human beings. It's not the person you don't like on the job. It's not uh your mom or your dad. It's not your sister or your brothers. It's not that man or that woman that hurts you. It is the devil. So Abigail acted quickly. You know, she didn't fight Nabal with words, emotions, or manipulations. So she didn't go to him and say, you know, you're making a bad decision, you know, because she felt like with his name meaning what it meant, he wasn't going to listen to her anyway, because he was full of pride. So she fought with wisdom. She made a decision. She discerned the danger coming to her home. So this is not telling women to go against your husband, but I'll talk about that a little bit later with the blind loyalty. God is your priority. Just like I said in the beginning of this video, be intentional. She chose the right strategy for the right moment. In that moment, Nabal was making a prideful, egotistical, immoral decision. It wasn't that he owed David anything, but he acted as if he didn't know who David was. David was about to become king. He knew who David was. Everybody knew who David was. So it was a form of disrespect. You know, he disregarded David. It was like, I don't even know who this David you speak of is. So she made a decision. And her decision was calm and spirit led. She didn't go to him and argue. He didn't even know what she was doing. God was working through her behind the scenes, protecting the home. So today, women often think their power is in loudness, titles, or proving a point. But the spirit led woman fights differently. She prays first, she responds, not reacts. She uses discernment as her defense. So wisdom will win battles that emotions will always lose. So she didn't go to try to win an argument with Nabal. She went to wisely change and transform the heart of David, because that would have kept David from becoming king, because there would have been more senseless bloodshed on his hands, because David couldn't even build an altar for God because there was so much bloodshed on his hands. So her wisdom kept David from making a huge mistake. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, Abigail showed women that honor is not blind loyalty. Now, men, this is not to beat you down. This is not women empowerment. Women take a stand and do it the way Abigail did it. There was a moment, a situation. It was spiritual warfare, and she fought a spirit led battle. Nabal, her husband, his name meant foolish. He was dishonorable. He was dangerous to his household. Let's bring it into perspective. If you have a husband who gambles all of his money away, he gambles away the rent money, the light bill money. He does all of these things that brings harm to the household. A woman has to make a wise decision. And women can do it too. We can bring dishonor to our household, but we're not going to talk about that today. And I will talk about that at another time. But what I'm talking about today is women being spirit led. Now she didn't go to him and say, you're being foolish, you're being dishonorable, you're endangering our household. She didn't go and scream and yell at him. She made a conscious, godly decision. And we may look at it as betrayal. She went behind his back. But she was protecting the home which he was not protected. Because sometimes we can get so comfortable in our power that we forget about who's truly in charge. Because when she came back from meeting David, he was having a party. He was being himself, having a party, being merry, drinking, whatever. And she didn't say nothing to him at that time. She waited until the morning when everything had worn off. And she told him, I went to do something that you did not do. Now, she honored the covenant of marriage by covering his failure, not by following him into destruction. Now, again, ladies and men, this is not a knock on you. But if a man is not leading you in a spiritual manner, he's not growing, he's not trying to lead you to grow spiritually. He's leading you down a road that is toxic. It's harmful to both of you. Then you have to make a decision. So a lot of times we confuse submission with, I just got to be quiet. He's the man. But Abigail shows us that you have to honor God. You can honor God even when people around you act dishonorable. You can be respectful without being irresponsible. You can protect your household even when someone else is jeopardizing it. So, biblical submission never means participating in someone else's downfall. So, David was about to take out the whole household. Abigail made a decision. She said, I'm not going to let this happen to my household. My husband, what does his name mean? And a lot of times you may have a question like, why? How did she end up with him? That's a good question, but that's a question for another day. Right now, we're talking about really women knowing what submission is and making sure that it's not blind loyalty. You should be able to trust your spouse, the one you made a covenant with. But when you can't trust that person, then you have a decision to make. You have a decision to make. Women. They say three strikes you're out. Three is a very important number, but it reminds us in this story to position wisdom positions you for God's next move. And this is the last point that I want to make, but it's the best point. And women, we have to always think about making wise decisions. She showed discernment. David, in turn, said to Abigail, blessed be your discernment. Her wisdom didn't just save the day, it prepared her for a future she didn't even know was coming. See, God removed Nabal, God elevated Abigail, God rewarded what she carried spiritually long before anyone saw it publicly. So while she was with Nabal, while he was making decisions, while he was a powerful man, all that time she knew he was not following Christ. He was not following God. He was not making decisions based on wisdom. He was basing it on what culture bases it on. Your position, your title. You feel like you have so much power that no one can say anything to you. So bring it into today. Women, we often wonder, why doesn't God open the door for us yet? Why won't he change the situation now? Like, we don't know how many times Abigail prayed that maybe that Nabal would change. Maybe that he would do something different. Maybe that he wouldn't be the very epitome of what his name meant. I'm pretty sure she prayed a lot of times like, man, I wish he would do something different. I wish he wouldn't honor his name by being foolish. See, like Abigail, your integrity is noticed by heaven. See, we always have to think about, even if men tell you you're doing a good thing by being quiet, you're better off when you just let him do what he wants to do. When you allow a man to tell you that, women, your integrity is noticed by God. It's not missed by Jesus. Jesus is in a realm we can't touch. And he's fighting on our behalf because that realm can touch us, which is that evil one that continuously misrepresents what God truly tells us to do. By women, you need to shut up or you're going to always be single. But if you lack integrity, you're still alone because you're not going to be happy. And I'm pretty sure Abigail was not happy. Your wisdom is building your future reward. Your obedience today is preparing your tomorrow. See, at the end of the day, she ended up marrying David, who would eventually become king. See, God will always elevate a woman who protects what he values. So, Abigail is the picture of a woman who stood between disaster and destiny. Not because she was loud, not because she was perfect, not because she was powerful, but because she chose wisdom over impulse, courage over silence, and obedience over fear. So ask God this week a couple of questions. Where do I need wisdom instead of reaction? Where have I mistaken loyalty for silence? How is God preparing me for a future I cannot yet see? And I want to end this with a short story. It's called The Breakup That Saved Her Future. Janelle had always been the kind of woman who took God seriously. She prayed over her decisions. She journaled her thoughts. She believed in purpose, not just plans. So when she met Marcus, smart, charming, church involved, ambitious, she thought, finally a man who fits my prayers. Everyone said they looked good together. Even her mother approved. And Janelle, who didn't easily give her heart away, started letting herself breathe a little. But slowly, little cracks began to show. He loved her. She didn't deny that. But he loved her in a way that always seemed to circle back to him. He needed her encouragement, but rarely noticed when she needed it back. He depended on her prayers, but barely led any himself. He admired her calling, but kept suggesting she tone it down so it wouldn't overshadow his own. Nothing was wrong enough to leave. Nothing was right enough to thrive. Janelle convinced herself, it's just a season. It'll get better. I can adjust. But deep down, she felt something shifting in her spirit. Her confidence grew quieter. Her peace grew thinner. Her joy dimmed around the edges. Still, she stayed because she loved him. And because love makes you hopeful. Then one night, after a long conversation that turned into a longer argument, Marcus said something she'd never forget. I love who you are now, but I don't know if I can handle the woman you're becoming. It hit her like cold water. It didn't mean He didn't mean it as an insult, but as confession. He was telling her, even if he didn't realize it, I'm not built for the future God is building in you. That night, Janelle cried until she felt empty. Not because she lost him, but because she finally admitted she had been losing herself. The next morning, with trembling hands, she ended it. Marcus didn't fight her. He didn't chase. He simply said, maybe this is for the best. And that was confirmation in it of itself. The weeks after felt like mourning. Every memory stung. Every prayer felt heavier. Every song hurt. But slowly, almost unnoticed, Janelle began to breathe again. She didn't realize God had been protecting her until she saw what returned. Her spark, her clarity, her boldness, her laughter, her direction, her calling. All the things that were quietly eroding under the weight of a relationship she didn't know was draining her. One day a close friend said, "Girl, you look like you're yourself again." Janelle smiled, not because she was fully healed yet, but because for the first time she believed she would be. 5 years later, she had grown into everything God whispered she would become: a leader, a speaker, a woman walking fully in her calling. She met a man who didn't shrink at her purpose. He matched it, he covered it, he celebrated it. He loved the woman she was becoming even more than the woman she was. And one day, while looking back over her life, Janelle realized, if God had let me stay where I wanted, I would have missed who he was preparing me to be. The heartbreak that once felt like breaking was actually God's hand protecting her future heart, making sure it would be whole and ready for the love that wouldn't fear her growth, or silence her purpose, or drain her spirit. So, guys, again, this is not an attack on men. This is just to strengthen us in the areas where we are weak when we talk about relationships. You know, there are some good men out here. There are some good women out here. There are some good men for some good women. And when they find each other, you have to make sure your heart is healed. So let's reprogram our thinking, guys. Let's recover the life that the devil tries to take from us each and every day. And let's get back to love. And allow the scriptures to speak. And remember, God may not be there when you want him, but he'll be there in the nick of time. And make sure you listen to the scriptures when it speaks. But don't just be a hearer of the word, be a doer. I love you guys. Peace. And I'm out.
Scroll through the word, revelations unlocked. Wisdom so fresh, got my spirit restocked. Streaming hope like podcasts on demand. Faith-built visions, God's work in my hand. Scripture